Hey guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife video for you. And today we are looking at one of the most prolific designs from QSP and a knife that honestly has just been wildly popular. Lots of guys just love these. And I have to say, I was fortunate to be able to borrow these from a local fellow knife enthusiast. Steven, thanks a lot for lending these out. And honestly, guys, I'm a little remiss in not making a video about the QSP Penguin before now, because these are everywhere. There are bunches of variations. You know, we have a couple of them right here, but there's a button lock version of this. There's a slip joint version of this. There's an XL version of this. There are higher end versions of this with some different steel choices. This is one of those models that just really hit big for QSP, and they have really, made a lot of hay out of that popularity. And, hey, more power to them. That makes perfect sense. From a business standpoint, and from a knife enthusiast standpoint, even more sense. Lots of people can get a knife they love for a budget price, and so it's just winning all around when it comes to the QSP Penguin. However, they have never and still don't really appeal to me. There are a couple little things here that I have a hard time falling in love. Okay, first of all, the initial release was in this 3-inch bladed version. And so it started off being a knife that was too small for me anyway. And then the sort of overall choices in terms of construction and materials and, all the stuff, just doesn't come together to make this a knife that I could really feel excited about. And I've tried, I really have. I've looked at a bunch of different versions and I keep thinking, well, should I buy this one? Should I buy that one? Would this work good for, and I just have a hard time getting excited about these. All right. Now let me set my bias aside and say, I do understand the popularity. Okay. Because these are very, very budget friendly. I was looking around, you can definitely pick these up for, between $40 and $50 Canadian. Now that's retail. You're going to have to pay taxes and stuff like that. And for that price, you're getting a decent knife. Okay. D2 steel, we've got micarta. There's a bunch of really attractive, interesting colors for the micarta. And I think that's a huge win. That's one of the reasons these are popular. The action is very enjoyable. Like, they haven't done anything wrong. Okay. So, man, it shoots out. Deployment is so enjoyable. Very, very fidgety knife. The liner lock is easily accessible and comfortable. Okay. So in that regard, absolutely great. They're a little bit different. Okay. So, if you're the guy who has a Rat Model 1 and a few Civivs and some other stuff like that, then having something that's in a little bit of a different blade shape and looks a little bit different, I see the appeal there as well. This copper one, of course, is really, really cool. Just one of the examples of the many very attractive or very interesting variations of this that really satisfy that itch that knife enthusiasts have to have something kind of cool and kind of unique. So, all of that I sort of understand. Let me though work my way through the knife and talk a little bit about why it's hard for me at least to get excited. So first of all, there is one thing here though that I do kind of love. All right. I do love two things, I guess. The first thing is the grind on this blade is absolutely stunning. And I know not everyone is this way, but I really get sucked in by a nice looking, fine satin finish. This is, to me, just beautiful. So right away, I've got to give credit. The blade to me is very, very attractive and very, very appealing. All right, moving down here, we've got a Wharncliffe blade, decent stock thickness, around 1/8 of an inch, which is pretty nice. These days there's a bunch of budget stuff coming out with very thin blade stock, and I don't really like that. For my EDC, I want something a little more substantial. All right, very thin behind the edge. Very nice and slicey that way. Now, I'm not in love with the orientation. So I'd like to see this blade kind of bumped down a little bit. Maybe make this thicker overall. Now that does cause a problem for, when you're closing the knife, it would end up sitting, if you made this thicker, it would kind of end up sitting out here like this. So I could see that being a problem, but some things could probably be redesigned a little to make it work. Nonetheless, as it stands, this ends up being a knife that if you're cutting on a surface, you're going to do a lot of draw cutting with. Now, I get for EDC, most of the time, we're holding something in the air and we're cutting on it like this. And for that, the blade orientation, blade to handle relationship doesn't really matter. Okay. So, but that's one of the little things that just doesn't excite me. Now, moving on, we're actually looking at another feature that I love, and that is these are not on washers. I mean, these are not on bearings. They are on washers, and everything these days seems to have to be on bearings, and it's fine. I don't have a real problem with it, but I've been around for a while, and there was a day where to get really good action, you had to do a good job of getting your fit and finish on point so that things rode sort of smoothly. And that is 100% the case with these. The action for a knife that's on phosphor bronze and Teflon washers is phenomenal. Such an enjoyable knife to flick open. The thumb stud is comfortable, the detent is dialed, and these fly open. You can really, this is very enjoyable. And to get that kind of action, now because of that, right, it'll drop shut, but it's not super drop shut, right? I've mostly got to push it shut, which I don't mind doing anyway. That, I'm not looking for a knife to just drop without any effort. This one does drop a little bit better than the other, but I haven't messed with these at all. Probably if I gave this 5 minutes of love, cleaned up the pivot a little bit and put some KPL on there, it would drop the same way. So action is really, really good, very much on point. The lock bar is accessible and comfortable. So that again, it's pretty rare to get a fidget-friendly knife that is on phosphor bronze washers, but this absolutely does that, which, again, deserves some real credit. Now, the handle for me is not super comfortable. I feel quite cramped, and you can see how I can't really get 4 fingers here. Now, again, on the XL, I probably could. All right, but that's a little bit of an issue for me, and it's hard to, I don't know about you guys, but if I grab a knife and hold on to it, and I don't get a really satisfying feel, if I feel a little uncomfortable, if I feel like that it doesn't quite fit in my hand, it's hard to get excited about a knife then. It definitely puts a damper on my overall impression of the knife. And so that's partially, I think, what is going on here. I have handled a few of these, but even before I had ever had one in hand, I wasn't super excited. I think part of it is the design just doesn't do it for me. All right, the size doesn't do it for me. One other cool thing here that I should point out, although it's kind of a bit of a hiccup as well, the way they've done the deep carry pocket clip is really, really cool. That is, instead of going on top of the scale, it goes inside between the scale and the liner, and then the screws go through and hold it in. That's a great way of doing this. However, it seems painfully obvious that you would want to use panhead screws in that case so that they'd be flush fitting, but they didn't go with the flush fitting screws, which is a little... I don't know, little strange. It works. It goes in and out of pocket just fine. I've had this in and out of pocket. I have no issue with it whatsoever. Okay. But, it just feels like it could have been thought out a little bit more. That is not something that puts me off of the design all that much. Just something that I notice as I'm kind of going over the knife. Now, finally, let's get to, I think, the main thing that makes it hard for me to get excited. To me, this knife is just not doing anything, super exciting. We've got a D2 liner lock on phosphor bronze washers with a thumb stud. This general approach is, super duper old. And there have been knives in the past. There we go. Case in point. The Rat Model 1 is a great knife, which essentially the same approach. Okay. Sorry, my Rat 1 is a little beat up. It gets a lot of use, guys. It's, the construction, the materials, right? Everything here is very, very similar. Here's one of the reasons I'm not in love with D2. You can see a little bit of corrosion forming on this. Again, I don't have a problem with it. And I love this knife, and I like these knives as well. But again, it's just not super duper exciting to me. I'll throw in another comparison here because it's got a similar blade shape. It is in a stainless steel. It's also bigger. And this feels great in hand. Okay, when I grip this knife, it just feels like meant to be. And for that reason, this is a little more satisfying to me. It feels like it scratches the same itch, having something a little different, a little bit dramatic, especially in the blade design. But also something that this just is more comfortable in my hand. I've got a couple of other knives I want to throw in here. Here's micarta. This is going to be a little more expensive, but the micarta kind of ties in. Very popular. Again, for Kizer, the bag letter is a similar type of design where it was really, really popular, and there's a ton of different versions of the Kizer bag letter. This is absolutely my favorite version with the micarta button lock and 154 cm steel. Total win as far as I'm concerned. All right. But it stands out as a little bit special and a little bit interesting because of a few different features. The button lock, the higher end steel for the price point, which is very attractive. Dual row ceramic bearings, again, for that price point, really, really impressive. This will cost you more than this. And of course, it's much bigger, but there are lots of variations of the standard size bag letter as well. So to me, the existence of knives like this just diminish the Penguin a little bit. Again, acknowledging the very attractive price point. Let me throw in one other knife. This is the Sencut Serene, and this has got to be the best thing that Sencut has done. It's attractive. It's interesting. The action is phenomenal. The lock is really, really fidgety. Now D2 steel again on this guy, but very close in price. I think these are like $50, $55, let's say. So a little bit more on the price point. But for me, I feel like you're getting a little more as well. So because of all that, the QSP Penguin just kind of drops lower and lower on my priority list. Now, I don't say this to offend anybody, and of course, these are borrowed knives from Steven. And Steven, I apologize. I had borrowed a knife from somebody one time and really didn't like it and gave a fairly negative review. And they're like, "Man, come on! You should have told me you're gonna just crap all over my knife." And I don't think I did that. I did acknowledge there are a lot of really, really good things about this knife. Just for me personally, not all that exciting. All right. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And I would love to have you disagree with me down in the comments below and tell me what an idiot I am and how amazing these knives are. If you are going to buy one, go over to White Mountain Knives. Use my discount code SHARPSTUFF. Again, I'll thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.